Hi, everyone. We're just going to give people a few minutes to join and then get started. Thanks for joining us today. All right, excited to begin. I hope everyone is doing well. A huge welcome. Hi to everyone. Let's know in the chat where you're joining from, and a big welcome back. This, of course, is our second masterclass in this series where we talk through large language models. And in this session, we'll be getting our hands dirty and actually build something that we can use in our day-to-day lives. If this is your first time here, you'd know that this is part of a three-part masterclass webinar series that we're hosting, sponsored by Academies Plus. And we'll be taking you through more advanced topics of Gen AI, including AI use cases, large language models, and finally, the last session, which will be building more advanced AI tools. Our hope is that by the end of this series, you will be able to confidently identify where Gen AI can play a role in improving business processes or even enhancing your day-to-day business activities. A very quick mention, of course, to the sponsor of our series, Academies Plus by Cubicle. I'm guessing a lot of you who are already familiar with Cubicle would probably know us for our industry-leading e-learning content. Now, with the advent of AI, as all of you know, there is a rapidly changing technological landscape. And we've identified an increasing need to blend digital learning experiences. This is what e-learning meets SME and instructor-led interventions scattered throughout your whole learning experience with us. And just with this type of approach, it means that training can always be more current, it can be more accurate, and something that is obviously very difficult to do with just e-learning. When your subject matter, and as you all know with AI, things are changing rapidly. To keep that pace, AI Academies Plus is a product and a project that responds to this need of constantly changing and evolving technological landscapes. And as such, what we've done is we've augmented our e-learning with brilliant minds and tailored learning projects. With this masterclass series, we will also be giving you the opportunity to experience some of what our Academies Plus offering has to offer through our online training project. Shortly after I hand over to today's instructor, I will be posting a link and a code to join our application in the comments for you to view today's masterclass and do the other e-learns that come as part of this series. If you are an existing Cubicle learner, you will not be able to join through that link because you are already enabled with access to that content. So I'll contextualize how you can access the rest of that material as well. But not to worry, we already are going to give you access to that material with your current subscription to Cubicle. For all of the others here who do not have an active Cubicle license, you will find a lot of relevant e-learning to augment your masterclass experience with. So please make sure you click on that link, enter that sign-up code, and join our learning platform to attend the rest of this masterclass series. With that, with the end of watching all of our webinars and also doing the e-learning content, we'll also offer you a well-priced Cubicle diploma against this offering. So I am shortly going to hand over to our host for the day, Shubham. Shubham has been, I don't know if a lot of you attended the first series, but he is our in-house AI genius and expert on all things artificial intelligence, and he will be taking on today's session on generative AI beyond the basics. So over to you, Shubham. I'm also going to share a link in the chat today for all of you to join along with that sign-up code. So a big welcome once again to everyone, and over to you, Shubham.
Yeah, thanks, Anu. Thanks for sharing and exploring the Academies Plus with the students as well. So, hello everyone. Welcome back to another webinar. I hope you enjoyed the very first webinar as well. Um, so, in the first webinar, we started discussing the basics of LLM. We looked into what's out there, the innovative aspects of LLM. Today, we're going to take it a step further. We're going to explore those LLMs and start and learn and to build something using those LLMs. Now, before building anything with LLMs, what's important to understand is the core concepts behind what they really are. Are there parameters? How do you build something like that? Certain things that are feasible, not feasible, prompt engineering, parameters like context windows, new companies that keep launching in LLM products. What do they really mean when they say certain keywords and terminologies like parameters, like context windows, like any other things as well? So we're going to look into all of these things today, a very practical approach. And yeah, I'm just going to share with you some really interesting things as well, resources just like the last class, which are literally websites where you can try out many, many things. Okay. As I mentioned again, all the things that I'm going to cover here are also a part of our Academies Plus program. So you may already have access to the learning platform. Okay, so the screenshot that I have on the right, on the left here is from that e-learning platform as well. So when you go sign up, you should see something like this too. Okay, so I'll begin with today's session and feel free to post your questions in the chat and Q&A as well. Okay, all right, so let's begin. Where we want to talk about LLMs. LLMs essentially is a generic terminology for large language models. I think we discussed this in the last class as well, but for anybody who's new, large language models are essentially what I would call models like ChatGPT 4.0, 4.5, Model O1, Meta Llama, and any other model out there. Okay, so they would all fall into this category of LLM. What LLM would mean is it's known as large language model. Now, there's a reason they are called large is because they are trained on huge amounts of data. Okay, huge amount of data like books, websites, articles, literally the entire internet. Their main goal is generating human-like responses. Now, the other reason and the main purpose of LLMs, in a very simple term, is to try and understand how to predict the next possible word in a sentence. For example, if the sentence is the cat sat on the blank. So LLM's responsibility is to predict what the blank should be. So by reading everything, every possible thing on the internet, websites, books, articles, it tries to give us the best possible word that fits in that blank. And LLMs are essentially that. When you look into ChatGPT, that's exactly what ChatGPT is. You have a statement, you have a sentence, and it tries to auto-complete your sentence. So what they are trying to do is finish up a sentence that you have created by predicting and identifying the most probable word. Okay. Although it looks like a conversation with question and answers, it really began with auto-completion. Okay. Every model that is launched, it has two things, right? One is the base model. Let's say we have a model which is ChatGPT 4.0 base model, fine. Sorry. What it does is it predicts the next possible word. And then there are models that would mention ChatGPT 4.0 instruct. Instruct models are those that we use in our day-to-day lives because instruct models are essentially that will work like a Q&A. So you can ask a question, it doesn't auto-complete, rather it tries to understand your question and answer it. But the base behind it, it's still based on completion of a sentence. So yes, LLMs are trained on all this data, and what they do while training is they learn the patterns. Patterns how humans think, patterns about the language. For example, if all my samples are in English, they will only learn English. Okay, and they will learn what's the most probable word in the English language. If you want the LLM models to learn about more languages, then your data should also be in more languages. And this is the only way to make LLM learn, right? Any LLM model, and this is a very common misperception, which is LLM model does not retain your data. Okay, let's say I'll give you an example. You give me 10 GBs of a file of an Excel sheet, let's say a data file. I use that to train my LLM model. Would my LLM model remember that 10 GBs of file? And a very quick answer to that would be no. LLM model does not remember your data. What it does remember is the learning, the patterns from that data. So it could be possible that your data file that you trained it on is 10 GBs, but your model turns out to be just 100 MBs. And the reason for that is it stores only the learning, right? The patterns in your main data set. It won't remember the actual data, which is why the current models are so big that they are trained on millions of data, billions of data, and now even trillions. I mean, if I look into the example, ChatGPT 1 was 117 million. Okay. If I repeat what I did in the first class, 117 million parameters would essentially mean you have an Excel file with 117 million columns. Okay. ChatGPT 2 was 1.5 billion, an exponential growth in the number of parameters. Okay, ChatGPT 3 was 175 billions and 4 was 1 trillion. And now there are models out there like recently Llama released new models known as Llama 4. Last week we were just looking into their models and Llama 3.3, not last week in the last session, Llama 3.3 was the most recent one. And just last week we have a new set of models from Meta, which is Llama 4. Llama 4 has three types of model. The basic model, the most basic model is based on 109 billion parameters. Llama 4 Maverick is defined on 400 billion parameters, and Llama 4 Behemoth, which is not out there yet. And the reason for that is it's still training. Why? Because it's one of the biggest models out there with 2 trillion parameters. So the biggest model so far in the world. Now, all these parameters will make it a very, very intelligent model to ever exist. Okay. We're going to be talking more about these models and how do you really compare these models? Because when we are working with large language models, it's important to understand what options do we have available, right? To understand the options that we have available, there are websites, there are resources that can help us compare those models. Now, for example, lmarena.ai is something that all these major websites will look into to compare the performance of the model. I'm going to be pasting this link in the chat as well. But yeah, or Anukriti, you can look into sharing this with everybody too. But basically, this website allows these big companies to compare their models using a score. Now, this company is currently allowing every well or provider like Google, XAI, OpenAI to compare their models and give them a score. Now, you may be asking me, how do they really evaluate them? Which is a really great question. They have also created something known as prompts. Now, this is the Arena Explorer. Okay. When you create your own model as well, it's a really good resource because what they have given us are prompts. They have around 20,000 or 15,000 prompts available in all these categories. And they are being tested across all of these prompts. The way they answer against all the prompts here is how they are evaluated. For example, if I select prompts on puzzles and math, okay, so there are many prompts in each category. Now, for example, this medical and health inquiries have 749 prompts. What about this? Smallest integer square problem has 87 prompts. Ice cube in fire puzzles have 93 prompts. Right? Trolley problem scenarios. Let me click on them. They might be the interesting ones. And these are examples of a trolley. So what would the LLM model answer if this was the question being asked to the LLM model? And this is how the LLM agent passes the prompts or fails those prompts, and this is how they're given a score. So currently, for example, Gemini 2.5 is in the leaderboard. Okay, ChatGPT 4.0, the latest version, is leading the race as well. And similarly, there's other models in the same rank. However, this doesn't really do justice to everything. Why do I say this? Now, again, there's also something known as price analysis. So there are categories that will help us make decisions on what model to use because there are literally so many models that currently exist in the world. Price is one factor, definitely, right? So if I look into this, what it shows me is the score compared to the prices. Okay. So for example, Llama 4 Maverick that is just recently launched, it has a high score, yet any other model on that level would be Gemini 2.5 Pro versus GPT 4.5 Preview, and 4 Maverick would still be very cheap compared to any one of those. So for me personally, if I were to try something, I would definitely try Maverick. Why? Because price-wise, it's good, and as well as Arena score is also very high. And I can look into other models too. So all the models on the right, on the x-axis as we keep going, would become more expensive. But when we keep going on the y-axis, they become more intelligent. Okay. Again, as I mentioned, this may not be the only good resource because use cases are also very, very important. So then we look into vision. Who's great at vision? Who's great at text to image, right? Who's great at search? And if you need more insights, there's another resource known as artificialanalysis.ai. Okay. What artificialanalysis.ai does is it takes this a step further. Okay. Um, and it gives us more insights on which model is very fast, which model is very intelligent, and which model is cheap. Now, you see, this is the comparison. So if I compare, yeah, intelligence, just go on and just do different chart. Okay. So we can go on to something known as leaderboards again and go into language models, and these are the leaderboards. So which model is good in terms of which aspect? Now, for example, if I look into context window, we're going to be exploring context window soon, but which model has the highest context window? So currently, Llama 4 Scout has the biggest context window of 10 million parameters. Gemini models are the second best. ChatGPT 4.1, which is the latest model, in our last webinar, GPT 4.1 didn't exist. So just between the times of our two webinars, we've got two major upgrades, one from GPT and one from Meta. We also have got a major upgrade from Gemini. So Gemini 2.5 Pro also have launched. So three major players launching three big models and the future versions of the models as well. Okay, but look into the differences. And again, Llama 4 Behemoth, which I just showed you here, hasn't even launched, right? So then this will that will have an even bigger window, right? So how is that context window useful to me? I'm going to answer that in just 5 minutes, okay? But before I do that, let's look into the pricing. So price-wise as well, every model has different aspects. When we compare price, there are two kinds of prices for every model. One is known as the input price. Input price is essentially the question that you ask. Okay, so when you ask a question, you're typing in a big message. What would be the price of tokens per 1 million tokens? Again, this is the price for 1 million tokens. Okay, I'm going to be showing you how to calculate those tokens as well very soon. But yeah, this is the price if you want to put an input for Llama 4 Scout, but then the responses it generates are priced higher. So if the responses are big, right, this is how much they're going to cost you for 1 million tokens. How about we actually compare them with a chart? So let's look into models, right? And we're going to look into pricing as well for all of these models. And there you go. There are some charts here. This versus price. Same chart like the previous website. So this is the price of a model versus the intelligence index. Okay. So it looks like GPT 4.0 released in March 2025. In terms of intelligence, it's low, but the price is very high. Claude 3.7 Sonnet, both models are same in terms of pricing, but the intelligent levels also vary, but they're at this level. Intelligent models compared to them are V3 from DeepSeek. So both of these models, DeepSeek and DeepSeek R1, O3 Mini and Gemini model. Okay, Llama sits here. So I showed you two resources. Both of them have different insights, but that's exactly what's going to happen because both of them will have different data sets. But at least this gives us a generic idea of which models are leading. Because if I compare 3.7 Sonnet, Llama 4 is still more intelligent than 3.7 Sonnet. But look into the price difference. Llama 4 Maverick is going to cost us so less compared to Claude 3.7 Sonnet. So it's $6 versus $1 per 1 million token. Okay. So yeah, I think websites like this will give us a really good idea on what model we should be choosing. Also, if speed is important to you, then look into this aspect, output speed. These are the models and comparing speed versus intelligence. This is the chart. So if you want speed and intelligence both, go ahead with Gemini 2.5 Pro experimental. right? If you, in terms of intelligence, O3 mini gives you the same aspects as well, right? And then other parameters like, yeah, and then there's size, intelligence. Yeah, humanities last exam, so reasoning model. Um, how about a coding exam? So which model is great at coding? Which model is good at human evaluation in terms of coding? Which model is good at math? Okay, which model can solve this well, is the best in this competitive math exam? So there's all this comparison parameters, and based on this, you can make a decision on which model you want to use. Okay, so two resources. Coming back to our content. So now that we've discussed models, there are two things that we learned. Tokens are important because prices are based on tokens, and context window is something that is highlighted as well. Let's look into both of them one by one. Let's first talk about tokens. Every model that prices you is going to price you based on tokens. Now, on a very higher level, if you wanted to count tokens, you can just say number of words equivalent to tokens. Okay, so let's say 1 million words in total is would be equivalent to 1 million tokens. So if an LLM model gives me a response of 1 million tokens, then it has charged me 13 cents if I'm using Llama 4. And similarly, every other model will have a different price. I want to take you to the details on exactly how tokenization works. So what we will be looking into is why tokens do matter and why are they useful for the LLM model. So basically what happens is an AI understands text, okay? But what it does is it converts each text that you submit into tokens. It's helpful for the AI model to search and index. Now imagine you uploaded a PDF file. Your PDF file is 10 pages. It contains so much text. When you ask a question about the PDF, the search efficiency has to be good, right? To do that, it converts all your text, all your words into tokens, which are essentially numbers. Words that repeat will have the same token ID. Okay. And in that way, it makes it more efficient for the LLM model to search and retrieve and then understand the information to give you an answer. Okay. Let me give you an example. So to understand this, there's a really practical way directly from OpenAI, which is known as this platform.openai.com/tokenizer. So this is the URL. Okay. I'm going to show this. So when you open this URL, this is exactly what will pop up. You don't need to be signed in to access this URL. This URL is actually available to everybody for free. And basically, this is the tokenizer. Okay. So what you can say is how each model works on tokenizer. Now, for example, let's look into GPT-3 legacy model. So if I type in, hello, how are you? Okay. Right. And then I press, well, I'll just refresh this page. Okay. How are you? I want to zoom this in. So when I type in this, what it shows me is I currently have four tokens. So hi, space plus how, okay, um, and then or, well, how are you, like this. So these are my four tokens. If I compare what LLM has done with this is it has converted this to token IDs. So hi is this, how is this, R is this, and U is this. Okay. Now, how about I increase this? So how about I do something like how are you? Um, are there any updates? Okay, this is my question, simply, right? So now my tokens in total are 10, right? I'm using 38 characters. This is how my tokens are working. A question mark has been treated as a different token. A comma was treated as a different token, as well as now if you look closely to my token ID, I have two words that are repetitive. R and R here. Okay. So one, two, three, the third word, and the fifth word, right? But there's also a comma. Let's see. I have 389 here and 389 here, which means same words will have same token IDs. Okay. This allows LLM to understand the semantic relationship between words. So if two words are similar, if LLM tries to plot this on a chart, 389 and 389 would be on the same position on a graph with an X and Y axis, right? So the words that are closer to each other are similar. Okay. And then again, if I take a big example, so this is the example. So yeah, this is exactly how this works. So I have this example with an emoji. The emoji is treated as this question, question, question. So each question mark is being treated as a token. So if I remove this emoji, right? So from 64 tokens, this will reduce down to just 59 tokens. Okay, so tokenization is very important when you want to uh, work on cost savings in a big LLM project. So you have this LLM thing, you want users to use this. What can you avoid so that the users can use more but use less tokens? So get better answers with less tokens. Okay, so you can all try this URL as well, just to see how this works. ChatGPT 4.0 takes this in a different level. So ChatGPT 3, this was 59 tokens. But for ChatGPT 4.0, this is only 49 tokens, right? So let me just bring back this thing. Yeah. So ChatGPT 3, this was 64 tokens. ChatGPT 4.0, which is the current model, this is 53 tokens only because it takes more spaces together. It merges certain words together. And for example, 1, 2, 3 are one tokens. 4, 5, 6 is one token. 7, 8, 9 is another token, and 0 is another token. Instead of each number being individual. Okay. And again, if you look into token IDs, same words will have same token IDs. To give you an example, yeah, there is two here, and then there is two here. So fourth word. So yeah, I'll have to refresh the page again. But yeah, anyways, this is a page that will explain tokenizer, and this is exactly how ChatGPT 4.0 will tokenize your words. Okay, so tokens are important because that's how you will be paying for the model when you use them. And then the concept of context windows. Context windows are very, very important. Um, why are they important now? So when you ask questions which are very, very small, like you ask um, a question which is essentially just 30 words, which is fine. You ask a question which is 100 words, which is also fine. You ask a question that is 10,000 words because you have attached 10 different PDFs. That is also fine. The challenge is when you upload an entire book, which is 200 pages, then your total words are more than a million. What you need in such cases is a model that is cheap so that the input tokens are less expensive, but also the model should be able to accept it because my input tokens have become 1 million now or more than 1 million. So which model should I be using then? And the answer to that then becomes context window and the models that allow a bigger context window. Okay. Now let me open up the resources again. Yeah, there you go. It's a context window. So we'll look into the leaderboards again. So the model, as I mentioned, that has the biggest context window. Um, there you go. So this is the context window. So this is a comparison of the context window that is currently available in the market. If you use Grok 3 from now this Grok 3 is from Elon Musk, so it's from XAI, okay? Gemini 2.5 Pro, 1 million context window, so basically 1 million tokens. So you can provide 1 million tokens in a single text message, okay? 1 million, 1 million here. How about Claude? So Claude is one of the most famous and the most intelligent models from, um, Anthropic. They have this token window, 200K. 200K compared to 1 million from Gemini, compared to Llama 4 Maverick, and the Llama 4 Scout is 10 million. Okay. Now you may be asking me, are there any use cases even that will help us use this context windows? There are. How about you're analyzing a video? There are features in in everybody's mobile phones now. If you open up a YouTube video, you can ask AI if you have a Gemini phone like Google phone or a Samsung phone, most recent one. You can ask AI to summarize the YouTube video. You can ask questions about the YouTube video. Imagine the YouTube video is 2 hours long. The LLM model is going to go through the video frame by frame, one by one, extract the entire transcriptions, and give you an answer in an instant. It can only do this because it has a bigger context window. It can take bigger inputs. Okay. Let me give you an example of context window as well. So there is a resource which is known as Google AI Studio. Okay. Now how you can reach it is you just have to search Google AI Studio. And if you search Google AI Studio, this will be the first link that pops up. Okay. I'm also going to share the link in the chat. Okay. So this is exactly what will pop up when you open Google AI Studio. Okay. Now Google AI Studio will let you try many prompts, and the best part is it will let you try Gemini models without any cost. It tells you exactly about how much they will charge you if you will go over the limit, but generally they have a free limit as well in everything because this is the developer portal. Okay, so Gemini 2.5 Pro, which is their latest model, it is less than 200K token because it's in the preview mode, right? That you're using. If you're a paid user, it has the biggest window. The input tokens will cost you this much. The output tokens will cost you, and this is best for coding, reasoning, and multimodal understanding. These are the use cases. Okay, and you have a rate limit. So free limits are you can send 5 requests per minute, and you can send 25 requests per day without any charges. Okay, you cannot send more than 150 requests, even if you're a paid user in this studio, because that is your rate limit, right? There are other models as well, and you see that the cheaper you go, your rate limit kind of increases. Okay, let me go back. Let's open the prompt gallery. So if you click on this prompt gallery, you will see different prompts. Now, as I mentioned, Geminis have one of the biggest context windows. Meta Llamas have a bigger windows than them. What about an example? So we have certain prompts, and all these are examples. Okay. So how about there should be a prompt here which talks to me about a video. Okay. So let me see. Ask questions. Yeah, the second one. Ask questions about key details in a video. So if I click on it, this is the video. Okay, and it has asked questions from the video, and yeah, it'll take some time to load it. But basically, it has answered all my questions already because they are preloaded prompts. This was a video which was 1 minute and 49 seconds.
This
Yeah, around 32,000 tokens in total. So just one, almost 2 minutes is 32,000 tokens. People now in their mobile phones are using entire YouTube videos that are half hour, 1 hour long. Imagine the number of tokens that it takes as an input. And it gives you answers for free on your phones. I mean, most of them are free. So yeah, gives us this answer. The main subject of this video is Ashley. Ashley used Google Trips to navigate her trip. She downloaded the app, which allowed her to access all the trip details. Musicians appear playing instruments at 134 timestamp. Any question that you ask about the video, they're answered because in seconds it will well analyze your video. Maximum 2 to 3 seconds, it will give you an answer to every question that you ask. Okay. The prompt gallery has more prompts too. Okay. So and you can try them out yourself. So this is one place which is an AI studio that you can use to create your own AI app. We'll be exploring more studios in the later webinar. So in the later webinar, we're going to be using many AI studios to create our first AI apps. Okay. But in this webinar, my focus is understanding elements in the studio. For example, things like temperature. What does that mean? Right? Things about top P. What does that mean? Okay. So yeah, first of all, yeah, this was the context window. Then let's move on. So if you understand context window, and you can try this out again on Google AI Studio by uploading a video. Okay, you can Google AI Studio will also support YouTube videos, which is also a very good thing. Now, when you work on LLMs, there are certain parameters that you will come across. Doesn't matter if you use those LLMs directly from OpenAI or Google or AWS Bedrock. So these are all the providers. There are certain parameters, and I mean the key parameters are temperature, which ranges from 0 to 1. In ChatGPT, it ranges from 0 to 2. Top P ranges from 0 to 1. Frequency penalty, presence penalty. Okay. Now, what do they really do? So let's talk into temperature. If temperature 0.0 would mean your output should include facts and less imaginations. The less, the lower the temperature is, the lower would be the AI model's imaginations. If you want the AI model to imagine and go wild with imaginations, you can increase the temperature to a higher limit. With more temperature inputs, the LLM response can also repeat itself and be very vague. It can start writing a language that you don't even understand, right? Let me give you an example. Okay, so what I'm going to do is there is a website known as platform.openai.com, and I recommend everybody creating an account on it. So if you have an account with ChatGPT, well, directly, the same credentials will work on this platform. Okay, the same username, the same password. This is the developer console from OpenAI. Okay, and basically they have something known as a playground. If you click on playground, You can see a screen like this, but there's one catch though. You will only see a screen like this if you have enabled billing, and the billing will only enable if you upload minimum $5 in the credits for OpenAI. Although they would never be used, you will still have $5 balance throughout unless you deploy certain models in your projects. But they need minimum $5 balance in your account in order to use all these playground features. Okay, so it's up to you if you want to use that or not. But playground has some really cool elements. Okay, um, I'll show you what they are. So it will be worth your money. But again, as I mentioned, $5 would never be used because playground, all these responses are generally free. Okay, as long as you do them wisely. If you do start doing 100 questions a day, then it's not free. Okay, all right. So basically, when if you see a screen like this in prompts, okay, then what you would see is the model, and you can select the models. The best part about playground is you will see the most recent models always. Okay, now, let's say I'm selecting a model which is ChatGPT 3.5 Turbo, which is the oldest one, just to show you examples. Then there are all these parameters, temperature. Okay, temperature of 1.0. So if I just say once upon a time, okay, and I am sending this question with, let me increase the temperature. Okay, so what I will do is increase the temperature to 0. So there should be no imaginations, and it types in, and there you go. So yeah, when I say imaginations, I mean also mean randomness. So once upon a time in a faraway kingdom, there lived a young princess, blah blah. One day he went through the forest, Aurora stumbled, fairies took Aurora, and then it gives me a story. If I increase this temperature uh, to 2, and I then ask the same question again, once upon a time, okay, and there you go. You see, because I increase the temperature, something has happened, and it tries to give me more messages, try to give me vaguer response. Like I'm going to stop this because it will keep going on otherwise. But the information would stop making sense because 2 is very high in terms of randomness. Randomness would mean experiment. Experiment what the next word should be. The next word could be literally anything, like an alphabet, like a character, right? Like some literally anything. So it started with a good story, but it started giving me vague responses. If your temperature is too high or too low, it can go, it won't be good. But if I set it to 1, 1 is like a perfect combination for ChatGPT, right? So once upon a time, and so it's a perfect combination of imagination, also facts. So both of them, so it's a balance. But if you just want to focus on actual statements without really fancy elements about stories and imagination, then you can limit it, right? Let's try the same thing in Gemini models. So let me set the temperature to 0, okay? And I ask the same question once upon, or maybe I can try it different. The sky is, and I run this. So what would it do, right? So this is what it gave me. And if I increase my temperature to 2, okay, and ask the same question, the sky is, and run it. So you will see the variations in my response, or nothing at all because it's confused on what the next word should be. Okay, so this temperature is something that you would need to evaluate, and if you're confused, just set it to 1 because 1 would mean balanced. Okay, then there's something known as P, right? What does P mean now? P would mean it's the probability threshold. Okay, so P would mean, so P equal to 1 and P equal to, so higher value would mean it's going to complete the sentence with more safe words. Okay, so say, so leading to a simpler story, so completely less imagination, less risks, not anything new. So it will use the words that it has seen before in the training parameters. Okay, p equal to less value, which is 0.3 something, would only pick the most probable word, right? And one would be more varied. So one would be it takes its chances. So the sky is, and then blank. So it's take its chances. It won't complete the sentence with words that have not been ever used before. So it'll try to explore all ideas, right? But p equal to 0 wouldn't take those risks. It'll stick to what it knows. If the sky is blue is a common thing, it'll give you sky is blue. Okay. Then there's something known as frequency penalty. Now, Gemini doesn't have that available, but OpenAI and other models do have that available. So frequency penalty equal to 0 would mean It might repeat the certain words excessively. Okay. So frequency penalty is if an LLM model is using a word and repeating that word unnecessarily, it will avoid it. If the penalty is high, then it will avoid using any repetitive words. If the penalty is low, it will be fine. It can repeat more words and as it seems necessary. And the same thing is for presence penalty. Okay. So an example is if you have this word which is may restrict remote work or benefits repeatedly, right? So it's going to encourage new concepts and phrases instead of reshaping or rehashing the new ones. Now, which one of them really matter? So what matters really is the temperature, because temperature is really the most common thing that people change, and you may need to change because your parameters are too varied and too open. And P is something that you change, but frequency penalty and presence penalty are something that are being handled by big models now. So the recent models that are very intelligent, they kind of don't make the mistake of repeating certain things, which is why it has gone in Google Gemini. OpenAI Playground still has it because ChatGPT 3.5 model does make that mistake, but the newer models won't make that mistake. Okay. Um, all right. Now, yeah, as I mentioned, because you want to work on AI models, what's really important to you is what use case is going to be important to me, which is where this links come in. So if you open this Hugging Face resource, it's not a resource really. Hugging Face is like a play store for your AI models, right? How does it work? So it can every major company, if they have an open source model, and I've discussed what open source means in the last webinar. Um, if they have an open source model, they would upload their model here. If the model is here, then this will categorize it. Now, what do you want to do? Let's say what you want to do is audio text to text. You want a document question answering because I have a PDF. You want a visual document retrieval. Okay. Now, this seems interesting, isn't it? How about this is doing OCR on PDFs, right? So, a visual document retrieval. Let me open up more things. So text to 3D, image to 3D, object detection. Uh, Similarly, yeah, text classification, text generation. Okay, question answering. So let me click on this. So if I click on anything, it will give me all models that exist. So these are all the models that exist for question answering. And these are all data sets that exist for question and answering in case you wanted to develop your own model as well. Okay. Um, and yeah, there's literally a video explaining to you about question answering models as well. So this place is going to help you get started depending on the use case of AI that you want to work with, and then the models available to work on that task. Okay. Yeah. And the last thing is about prompts. Now, when we work with LLMs, prompt engineering is a very, very, very useful thing, right? Prompt engineering is so important that it can literally change what you want to do and achieve. For example, when I type in, I'm going to open up this arena again. When I type in the sky is, okay, let me reset my parameters as well. So I just want it to be default parameters. Okay, the sky is, okay, that's all I type in. And I run the statement, it gives me this response, right? But if I be very specific, so prompt engineering will tell me be specific. So if I just say complete this sentence, right? The sky is, and I send this as an answer, and there you go. Because for AI apps, your answers should be predictable. Your answers should follow a format that are being accepted by your platform, right? And changing the prompt changes your answer drastically. I mean, everything that you see would be completely different. Now, I have pasted a link in the chat, which is the official documentation on prompt engineering directly provided by OpenAI. So OpenAI did some research and they published something on, I'll just go back. Yeah, and they published a prompt engineering guide themselves. A prompt engineering guide, and there you go. So this is the link that you also have in the chat. So what they have done is identified how to choose a model and then do prompt engineering. Now the prompt engineering is essentially very basic steps. Okay, so I'll show you this. Prompt engineering, yeah. I think I opened up the there's I just want to open up the guide, sorry, and this is it. Yes. Let me just paste this link in the chat as well. Okay, because it may be different and there are two links. Okay, so basically this link is all about prompt engineering. It tells you how this works. Now, every LLM model, I'm not sure you knew about this as well, has different roles too. So there is a user role. So these are instructions coming directly from the user, and this is what ChatGPT will try to answer. Okay, but there are roles like developer. So instructions to the model that are prioritized ahead of user messages. Okay, so these are hidden roles, though. But these prompts would be hidden. Okay, and the prompts would be like this: You are helpful assistant that answers programming questions in the style of a Southern belle from the Southeast United States. And then there's an assistant prompt, a message generated by the model in the previous generation request. Okay, so first of all, there are roles, but let's not worry about the roles at the moment. Okay, what we should be worried about is prompts. So basically, there are 6 strategies to get good results. The first strategy is include details in your query to get more relevant answers. Okay, so add as much detail as you can. Ask the model to adopt a persona, right? So let's go into each one of them one by one. So include details. So what would be a bad example? A bad example would be, how do I add numbers in Excel? And a good example of the same prompt would be, how do I add up a row of dollar amounts in Excel? I want to do this automatically for a whole sheet of rows with all totals ending up in the right column called total. So now let's check this out, right? So let me just go to this playground again, and yeah, I'm just going to be using ChatGPT 4.0 model. Yeah, 4.0 mini is fine as well, but let me just use 4.0 mini. So how do I add numbers in Excel? Okay, so this is my answer. I'm going to stop my response, and if I try this prompt, let's see. Okay, so it gives me specific instructions based on my question rather than being very generic. It gives me multiple methods here. Instead, here it gives me instructions on exactly what I've asked. So if you want meaningful answers, you need to add more details in your query, and these are more examples on exactly how you would do that. Okay. The second tactic is ask the model to adopt a persona, and this is very, very important. So, for example, you can just say this, yes. You are a highly capable, thoughtful, and precise assistant. Your goal is to deeply understand the user's intent, ask clarifying questions when needed, think step by step through complex problems, provide clear answers. So this is a system prompt, though, right? But if you type in something like this, when I ask for help to write something, you will reply with a document that contains at least one joke or playful comment in every paragraph. Or when you ask questions like, write a thank you note to my steel bolt vendor, then this doesn't really work in the same way that this works. Okay. The best part is a system prompt is something that goes to the LLM every single time. However, when you're talking to ChatGPT, you don't have to worry about it because ChatGPT's platform will use this sequentially. So you can add this prompt and then you can go ahead and ask questions. Okay. The second thing that you may have not thought about are delimiters. Delimiters are very useful to clearly indicate distinct parts because to ChatGPT, delimiters are very important. For example, when you say summarize the text delimited by triple quotes with haiku. So when you specifically mention that do that for only text that I've specified here, it makes it much more clearer. Okay. And then similarly, you will be provided with a pair of articles delimited with XML tags like this. Okay, about the same topic. First, summarize the arguments of each article, then indicate which one of them makes a better argument and explain why. It will give you a better response. Okay. The next tactic is specify the steps required to complete a task. So you can specify steps like this. What should be step one? What should be step two? And based on that, answer your query. Okay. And yeah, the other best part, which is always the very useful part, is provide examples. Okay, so you always should give it an example, and this is something that we call as zero shot examples, because an example can let the model understand exactly what you mean. Okay, examples or reference text. Now, you may be thinking there's so many things. So splitting complex tasks, like so for example, if a complex task, splitting them into simpler tasks. Okay, another strategy is give the model time to think, right? Like this. But then there's so many things, right? It takes so much time to work on a prompt. So it looks like prompt engineering is a course in itself, which it really is. Which is why the Cubicle Academies Plus on your e-learning platform will have a prompt engineering session specifically. Okay, so just make sure you finish that as well because it contains all of these things that I've discussed in the class. But yes, as I mentioned, I don't want to give you too much to do, right? What I want to show you is a shortcut approach as well on how this could be done easily. So as I mentioned to you, if you have access to the playground, right? This is exactly something where you would enable billing and pay $5 to OpenAI. This is something known as prompts. Okay, so system message. So here, for example, I can click on this button and I can type in exactly what I want to do, right? Let me pick, and if I pick up any prompt, for example, analyze my PDF and give me proper answers. Give me relevant citations. Don't give me anything outside my data. Okay, I made spelling mistakes as well. Okay, now basically, if I have this platform, what I could do is this is my prompt, and I can click on create, and this will convert it into a better prompt by understanding all the 6 strategies that I've discussed with you so far. And there is my prompt. And then I can simply copy this entire prompt and paste it into ChatGPT and use this prompt. And this prompt aligns with all the practices that OpenAI has published on their pages. So this is the shortcut approach. Okay. Um, the only thing is this is free to use, as I mentioned, but you would still need to enable billing and load $5 in your OpenAI account. If you do, only then all these things are free to you. Okay. But yeah, this is exactly how you can create a prompt very, very easily, right? Um, what I Yeah, so I think I've shown you this live demo already. So basically, I was going to show you this concepts as well. So how would you want to create your own custom chat GPT and your AI apps? But I think based on the times, I'll try to discuss this as well in the next webinar, along with creating your own AI LLM model, a custom chat GPT model yourself, as well as your own AI app and how you could do that now in the current space. So yeah, I think basically in today's class, you learned what LLMs are, right? You learned the parameters of LLMs. You've learned how to choose the right LLM model for your use case, as well as what do the context window and tokenization mean. So in terms of cost, how would how much would they cost you, right? And it's not so much if you have a small use case. As I mentioned, if you use my Meta Llama model, it's going to cost you 0.13 cents for 1 million tokens, which is not that much, right? And prompt engineering as well. As I mentioned, all these things are already in the Academies Plus. So make sure you finish the Academies Plus sessions as well. Okay, the e-learning content. And yeah, I want to hand over to you, Anu.
Thank you, Shubham. That was really, really informative and goes back to just cement what we said at the start of the session. Between our last and this webinar, there were so many changes that have already happened in the scenario, and it becomes more and more relevant for the AI landscape to use a blended experience of learning. So I am posting again a quick link to our sign up portal. This video, Shubham gave us loads of tips and tricks, and of course he used a lot of live demos and loads of resources for you guys to go and try out all of this stuff. If you wanted to watch the video again, if you wanted to try this back at home and re-put and do all of the entries yourself, give it a little hands-on go before our next session, please feel free to watch the video again on demand, which will be available within our application within that code that I've just shared in the chat. And obviously stay tuned for our next and final part of this masterclass series. All of the learning that we have done so far, we will be putting it into technical practice. You will get to build your own models. You will get to put all of the learning into actual practical experience and get a little bit more hands-on application with all of the learning. So I'm really excited. I've been following along as well. Shubham, I'm going to do that in the next session too. And I hope you guys join us for the next one as well. If there were any questions that you might have had during the session, or if you have any additional questions, that you were not able to ask in the chat. I've also put in our email address that you can reach out to us for any follow-up questions, which is support@cubicle.com. But huge thank you to Shubham again for taking us through a massively informative session. And thank you so much for everyone who's joining us from across different places right now. Thanks for giving us your afternoon. And we look forward to seeing you again in the next series. Have a lovely day ahead.